Internally, I heard, if you don't leave now, you will not leave with your soul.
A chilling warning has just been issued, and it's sending shockwaves through Christian communities everywhere. Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck, two of the most outspoken voices in the media, have stepped forward with an urgent message that believers cannot afford to ignore. Behind closed doors, they've uncovered troubling trends, hidden agendas, and unsettling developments that could threaten the very foundation of faith itself. So what shocking revelations have they exposed? Why is this message so critical right now? And how could it impact Christians across the globe? Let's find out. The battle for faith in society. Every headline, every act of violence, and every challenge to religious freedom whispers of deeper struggles that could change the world as we know it. The fabric of our societies is unraveling, and the storm brewing on the horizon threatens more than just political stability. It endangers the moral foundation upon which civilization was built. Whether through violent crime, cultural conflicts, or relentless attacks on faith, the increasing unrest is no longer confined to isolated incidents. It has become a global crisis, one that demands our attention before it's too late. Prominent voices like Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck have long warned of these dangers, shining a light on the rapid social and moral decline unfolding before us. This is not just a fight for law and order, it is a battle for the very soul of humanity. Across Europe, we see the grim consequences of unchecked immigration, ideological clashes, and growing hostility towards Christian values. Lawlessness spreads like wildfire, tearing communities apart, while sacred places of worship are desecrated. Churches burn, religious symbols are torn down, and the faithful are silenced, all in the name of progress. But what kind of progress demands the destruction of faith? The United States is not immune. The same ideological forces that have shaken Europe now grip American society, threatening to dismantle the Judeo-Christian principles that once guided the nation. This is more than a cultural shift. It is an outright spiritual battle. The rise of anti-Christian sentiment is evident, from the suppression of free speech to the demonization of religious beliefs. Governments blur the line between dissent and hate speech, making it increasingly difficult for Christians to voice their convictions without fear of persecution. Even the smallest expressions of faith are scrutinized, pushing believers into silence. Beck and Carlson warn that this is not accidental, it is intentional. The growing divide in America is not just political, it is ideological. The left and the right are no longer debating policies, but waging a war of worldviews. Secular ideologies such as socialism and globalism seek to erode religious influence, replacing it with a framework that rejects faith entirely. Traditional values are being systematically dismantled, with concepts like family, marriage, and the sanctity of life redefined to fit an agenda that excludes God. For many Christians, this is a deeply personal struggle. They face immense pressure to conform to a culture that no longer tolerates traditional beliefs. The push for unrestricted abortion, the redefinition of gender and family, and the normalization of behaviors that contradict biblical teachings present difficult choices. Standing firm in faith has never been harder, yet passivity is not an option. Silence in the face of moral decay is surrender. And as Carlson and Beck emphasize, Christians must take action. Faith is not merely a private affair, it demands engagement with the world. Prayer and devotion must be accompanied by action, whether through participation in the political process, standing against injustice, or defending the most vulnerable. Every compromise, every moment of hesitation, only strengthens the forces working against faith. To remain silent in the face of blatant moral corruption allows it to flourish unchecked. Carlson has repeatedly urged believers to use their voices, to reclaim the moral ground that is being lost. This is not just about elections or policy changes, it is about the survival of truth itself. The erosion of faith in public life has consequences far beyond politics, and the stakes have never been higher. And what if staying silent allows faith's greatest challenges to grow unchecked? Is truth itself at risk? Keep watching. Glenn Beck's dire warning in the shifting global landscape. The unease in Glenn Beck's voice is unmistakable. He sees the chaos unfolding in Europe and warns Christians to prepare, because what's happening overseas won't stay there for long. Before discussing this with Tucker Carlson, Glenn prays, asking for wisdom and clarity, His concern isn't just for America, but for the entire world, as it teeters on the edge of something ominous. As Glenn speaks, he recalls what he's learned from biblical scholars. The signs of the end times aren't just theoretical anymore. They're playing out in real time. Wars, disasters, and moral decline are accelerating, just as Scripture predicted. The Israel-Palestine conflict has escalated, pulling more nations into the fire. Every day, the global stage shifts, with new alliances and betrayals shaping the future. Glenn points out how many signs from the book of Revelation are unfolding right before our eyes. Yet why should Christians fear? The book of Revelation wasn't meant to instill fear, but to prepare believers. In Matthew 24, verses 6-8, Jesus said, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." If what we are witnessing now is only the beginning, the destruction ahead is unimaginable. But even more disturbing than wars and disasters is the rapid decline of morality. Glenn describes a chilling scene from Europe. A woman is thrown to the ground and beaten by 3 men in broad daylight. No one intervenes. No one stops it. This isn't just an isolated incident. It reflects a society that has lost its moral compass. Glenn reminds us that the woman being beaten is someone's daughter, wife, or mother. And if Christians do not stand up against such evil, then who will? Basic human decency is vanishing. Anarchists, socialists, and globalists, Glenn warns, are working toward a greater goal: destabilizing Israel, the Middle East, and eventually the United States. They thrive on division and chaos. Their agenda is clear, and they will stop at nothing to achieve it. Glenn's message is urgent. Christians must stay alert. The political elite will soon unite in their efforts to weaken America from within. Tucker Carlson joins the discussion, shifting the focus to America. The election has passed, and Donald Trump is now president. His victory marks a turning point, a resurgence of conservative values after years of turmoil. The media manipulated polling numbers and public perception. But in the end, the people spoke. Americans wanted change, and they made their voices heard at the ballot box. With Trump back in the White House, many Christians feel a sense of relief. His leadership, rooted in strong nationalist and conservative principles, is seen as a defense against America's rapid moral decline. But Glenn and Tucker emphasize that this is not the time for complacency. Just because Trump is in office doesn't mean the fight is over. It has only just begun. One of the most alarming statistics Glenn shares is the number of Christians who fail to vote. Many believers stay home on Election Day, either disillusioned by the system or convinced their vote won't make a difference. But this mindset, he argues, is precisely why America has suffered under leaders who do not uphold Christian values. If believers want leaders who share their principles, they cannot simply pray and hope for the best. They must take action. Christianity is under siege, not just politically, but culturally and spiritually. Glenn and Tucker know what it's like to face backlash for speaking uncomfortable truths, but they also understand something even more dangerous: the intoxicating power of fame and influence. Glenn opens up about his own struggles, recalling how the allure of power nearly consumed him. At one point, he felt his grip tightening around his soul, threatening to change him into something he didn't want to become. It was a dangerous seduction, one that he recognized just in time. He left, not because he didn't enjoy the power, but because he knew if he stayed any longer, he might not leave with his soul intact. Tucker nods in understanding. The world of media, politics, and influence is a battlefield, and those who enter it must be prepared for the cost. Many voices are silenced, and countless people compromise their values for a seat at the table. But Glenn, Tucker, and others like them refuse to play that game. They see the deception for what it is and choose to stand firm no matter the cost. The world is shifting rapidly. The conflicts overseas, the moral decline, and the political battles in America, everything is connected. Glenn's warning isn't just about predicting the future, it's about recognizing the present. It's about seeing the signs, understanding their significance, and preparing for what comes next. Whether people believe it or not, change is here, and it's only just beginning. And what if the real battle isn't just political, but a fight for truth itself? Stay tuned, there's more to uncover. A world in crisis, faith under fire. Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck have sparked a conversation that goes far beyond news and entertainment. In a world where media and fame often lead people astray, they've taken a stand, reminding us of the dangers that come with embracing the secular world without anchoring ourselves in faith. It's easy to get caught up in the glitz and glamour, but the reality is sobering. Many who once stood firm in their beliefs have stumbled, lured by the temptations of wealth, power, and influence. We've seen it happen time and time again. Mega church pastors, once dedicated to preaching the gospel, now entangled in scandals that shake the very foundations of the church. It's disheartening but not surprising. The industry they navigate is ruthless, designed to consume everything good and pure, eroding the values that once held society together. As Christians, we must be vigilant, recognizing the difference between what is eternal and what is temporary. If forced to choose between the fleeting pleasures of this world and the salvation of our souls, we must always choose the latter, just as Glenn did. These are terrifying times, unlike anything we've seen before. Every day, the world becomes more like Sodom and Gomorrah, discarding the moral and spiritual values upon which it was built. Corruption, immorality, and lawlessness are spreading at an alarming rate, leaving destruction in their wake. Nowhere is this more evident than in the Middle East, where tensions have escalated to unprecedented levels. Israel, a nation constantly at the center of global conflict, faces mounting threats from its adversaries. In recent developments, Iran has officially stepped into the fray, launching hundreds of missiles at Israel, destroying infrastructure, taking innocent lives, and pushing the region closer to the brink of catastrophe. The world watches as alliances shift and enemies unite with a singular goal: to wipe Israel from the map. For those who study Scripture, none of this should come as a surprise. Christ warned us of these days long ago. He spoke of wars and rumors of wars, cautioning that these events would be only the beginning of sorrows. Yet the true storm is still ahead. In Matthew 24, verses 9-12, Christ foretold what was coming. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Look around. Every word of Christ's prophecy is unfolding before our eyes. Christian persecution has reached unprecedented levels. In many nations, believers are no longer welcome. Trust between people has eroded, replaced by greed, selfishness, and deception. Even the love of mothers for their children has grown cold, reflected in the alarming rise of abortions worldwide. The world is more connected than ever before, yet its connection to God has never been weaker. The powerful and corrupt continue to deceive the masses, just as the Bible foretold. They celebrate sin, glorify rebellion, and silence those who dare to speak the truth. But as Christians, we are called to be the salt of the earth, to preserve what is good and spread the message of Christ. Now more than ever, the world needs the gospel. Amid this chaos, figures like Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck stand firm, speaking truth in an era of deception. It's rare to see men in media who aren't afraid to call out the lies, who refuse to bow to the pressures of political correctness, and who remain committed to their faith. They are a reminder that not everyone has been deceived, and that there are still those willing to stand in the gap and fight for what is right. But the question remains, where do we go from here? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.